Hello, and welcome to Why I Love Warhammer, the series where I go into an unscripted ramble into why I love something about this hobby. And on today's episode, it's the Tyranids. The Tyranids were one of the first Warhammer armies I became aware of back in 4th edition when I first got into the hobby. The starter set was the Battle for Macragge, Ultramarines versus the Tyranids. They are painted up in the Hive Fleet Behemoth colours or Kraken colours, the red and blue one, not the ones on screen here. And it was such an interesting concept. I wasn't aware of Starship Troopers, the inspiration for the Tyranids at the time. I just saw these cool little dinosaurs running around fighting the Space Marines, and I thought it was really cool. It's not the army I ended up going with in the end, but I always had a place in my heart. I love them how alien they are. If you go through the Xenos races in 40k, you've got the robot skeletons of the Necrons, my biggest army, but they're still humanoid skeletons. The Eldari, Drukari, Yanari, Harlequins, they're space elves. They're still humanoid looking. The Leagues of Votan, they're space dwarves, but they're still humanoid looking. The Gene Stealer cults come closer to these guys, but they're still humanoid looking. All of the Xenos races still look humanoid. The exception are the Tyranids. And so they occupy this really wonderful space in the setting as things that don't resemble humans at all. And that's fascinating. Also, I was a dinosaur kid. They're called Tyranids. They're Tyrannosauri. They're tyrannosaurs that are models, and they are, running around. I mean, yeah, the Termagants here look more like raptors, like Deinonychus and whatnot, but they're, as a dinosaur kid and a dinosaur adult, they're really cool for being dinosaurs in that way. And that's something really special for the hobby, for the setting, and for them. Also, Tyranids were the first army I actually beat as a one person. It was my Necrons versus Tyranids. It was pre-Tyranid Codex 10th edition. I'm terrible at the game. My first actual win without outside help was against Tyranids, so they've got a special place in my heart for that, for giving me my first win in so many years. But the thing that makes them really cool to me is the notion of they're part of the Hive Fleet, the Hive Mind. I've read a lot of books that are centered around the Hive Mind in the sense of the Tyranid Hive Mind, where it's lots of things that share a consciousness that are they're joined at the same entity. Real hive mind, the ants and bees and stuff, don't actually work the way they do in science fiction, but Tyranids working the way they do as science fiction, in science fiction, is something I really like. And also the notion that the hive mind, the hive fleet, is so much bigger. And the analogy being, like, this is Hive Fleet Kraken, this is Hive Fleet Behemoth, this is Hive Fleet Ouroboros, here's another Hive Fleet, here's another Hive Fleet. These are the Tyranids that have come into the galaxy so far, but it's just the hand, and each of these is a finger, and there's something more to it. That's brilliant storytelling to me. Here's something that's a cosmic threat that we've only just seen a little bit of. And then you add that to the fan theory / notion that the Tyranids are running away from something rather than running towards something. That is such brilliant storytelling to me that the Tyranids are the only ones who could really pull that off. I do like how they link in with the Gene Stealer cults of when they're trying to consume the biomass of a planet. They do send emissaries to kind of warm people up to the notion and have people who herald their arrival. There was a brilliant Hammer and Bolter episode which focuses on a Tyranid invasion that I think cemented this concept of how Tyranids invade so brilliantly, that yeah, I couldn't take my eyes off the screen for that one. It's one I've actually rewatched, that Hammer and Bolter episode on the Warhammer TV, Warhammer Plus. So yeah, Tyranids just are brilliant, and there's so much variation you can have because these are bio weapons in themselves. You can really experiment. When they want to make a new Tyranid model, I can imagine they just tell the designers, you know what a Tyranid looks like, go nuts. So yeah, freaking love the Tyranids in that regard as well. So let's just go through some of the models. Here are Termagants with the Ripper Swarm. This is the newly updated one for 10th edition. I think these guys are just the classic. They really represent the swarm of Tyranids that they're supposed to be. They are bug-like and dinosaur-like and inhuman and just terrifying. And they're still 11, 12 feet tall. They're not like Velociraptor size. They're not the size of a chicken. They're huge. The Ripper Swarms are also terrifying in the best way. Just like going along the floor. I've read some things of lore where you don't actually realise you're standing on top of Ripper Swarms until suddenly you realise the floor is made of Ripper Swarms. It's phenomenal to me that that's how it operates. So yeah, I've got great love for the Termagants with the Ripper Swarms and what they represent. The weapons are scary. They're kind of built into the hands, which is something I just find really fascinating. And the fact that they are consuming. Yeah, Tyranids don't take prisoners, they will just eat you. There's also an interesting thing in lore that once they've kind of taken out all the biomass that could fight back, they then devour all the plants and trees and all the fungi and lichens and whatnot, just to leave the entire planet bare. I like the idea that they do that last, like trees are dessert. But I love the weapons being built into the models. They're kind of fleshy, and that's something that just I find very fascinating. Okay, Broodlord. I like this guy mostly because he looks like the Patriarch from the Genestealer cults. I just think it's a really cool model. It's got a really intimidating pose to it, the way it's standing. This guy feels like someone who's leading is leading the battle from the back. And it's just and that color scheme as well, that kind of bony, it's got reminiscent of exposed muscle, just skews me out. And if the Tyranids are skeeving me out, the Tyranids are doing their job. It's just an incredible model. I think on my Genestealer Cults video, no, it was on either my Genestealer Cults video or my Patriarch short, someone commented that they use it to proxy in for the Broodlord. Fair enough, they've got basically the same pose. I actually had to check that they weren't the same kit, that you could just build in more than one way. But it still has a really cool place on the field. I think it's an amazing model that just deserves a lot of respect. Okay, Carnifex is, again, the classic. There's a whole strategy in the game of the distraction Carnifex where you send something like a Carnifex that's big and scary out in one direction, so your opponent has a choice of either deal with the Carnifex and give up the objectives, or not give up on the objectives and get mown down by the Carnifex. It's a brilliant strategy that, to be honest, I'm not good enough at the game to be able to play around it. If you're playing me and you're using Tyranids, Destruction Carnifex, I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah, the hard counter for me. They look scary. I love the kind of the spikes on the hand, the kind of scythe-like talons. They're weird to me. The fact that they've got 6 limbs, but they're only walking on 2, is something really cool and weird to me. They've got the alien xenomorph from the Alien franchise kind of mouths going on that I really like. I think that's just really cool of them. I like just generally with the Tyranids that they take on so many different alien things. So Starship Troopers, xenomorphs from the Alien franchise. They just have a lot going on that I think works really well for them. It's an enormously varied army. Tyranid Warriors, the classic. I love the arms. Like, this guy's got 2 hands supporting the one gun that's still grown out of him. The whips I think look cool and disconcerting. They look like the alien queen from Aliens, and it's just trippy and cool. And they've got too many limbs. They're bug-like, they're dinosaur-like, they're xenomorph-like. They're just amazing. And these guys being like the backbone of the army. You go, the gaunt swarm the battlefield, but these guys are the powerhouse dealing the damage. Beautiful to me. It's just, yeah, you really feel strategy with the hordes with these guys. Winged Hive Tyrant. You take something cool like a Hive Tyrant and then you make it fly. Brilliant. And again, this version uses the tail as to give that illusion of flight. I think when the thing that's there to give the illusion of flight looks kind of floppy is when I buy the illusion more. If they don't want to use flying stands, having something that looks floppy at the base makes it feel like it is flying more to me. But this thing with its wings and these feet that kind of stop it ever properly landing, I find incredible. Also, they do the wings in a way that is more akin to how animals are in this planet, where the wings aren't an extra set of limbs, they're a converted set of limbs. Like bats. Bats have 2 legs and 2 wings, and the hands are the wings. And I think with Tyranids having 6 limbs, and with this it's just 2 of them happen to form wings, and you can see the fingers in the wings just really add to that believability of them. And they've got terrifying dinosaur faces, and another gun that's made out of flesh with like an ammo container here. It's just a really disconcerting model that I think is just fascinating. That, yeah, it's a flying Tyranid leader. What more can you ask for? Old One Eye and the classic Hive Tyrant. I find Old One Eye fascinating from a couple of perspectives. One being when it was a named character for a specific hive fleet, and then again when it became like a Tyranid rank as perceived by others. I just think it's a cool looking model. I love the crab claws it's got going on and the scythe-like spines. The fact that it's been injured but still carrying on, I think, is cool. And then again, and this kind of dinosaur tail, I think, is fascinating. Again, I like the old Hive Tyrant as well. It's got that gun-like thing there. It's connected at a couple of points. It's just scary to have this thing kind of mooching down the battlefield in a way that you can't counter, but you can't not counter. I think, yeah, Old One Eye is just a really fascinating model, as is the Carnifex. The Biovore. I love this one, and I love the old version. The old version, they were going for this notion that the Tyranids, when they eat biomass, take on some of their characteristics, which then the Kroot took on as their thing. So the old Biovore was, what if it ate an orc? So it had a slightly orky face. Which I did appreciate that. But this version, as a horrifying spider, I appreciate all the more. Big gun on the back that's pulsating, which, again, skeeves me out in a way that Tyranids should skeeve me out. But it's got this spider-like head. And that makes me shudder. The more I learn about spiders, the more horrified I am at spiders. And this thing having this spider-like head here with these fangs here... that's brilliant. That's wonderful. Can't not love it. It's so scary. And it's bigger than you anticipate as well, so it feels like a threat on the battlefield. I love the pose as well. That one raised leg, it's both like an action pose and a threat. It's just a phenomenal sculpt. And something that would just scare the bejesus out of me in real life. I also like how the tail is almost like a scorpion stinger as well. It kind of rises up and comes out here. It's just cool. Okay, the Gene Stealers. Again, fascinating. I love the idea behind them. I love the poses. And again, the way they get painted up, they've got that slightly disconcerting fleshy tone to them with what looks like exposed muscle tissue, which skeeves me out. Again, that's what Tyranids should be doing. And these guys, they always struck me as like they were lumbering across the battlefield at great speed. And that kind of adds that extra feel. Like the gaunts are running, the warriors are kind of running in a different way. But these guys are lumbering, and that makes them feel so threatening to me that it's such a brilliant unit to have. The Lictor. I think Lictor and Death Leapers. I think I love these kind of praying mantis things that are going on at the top. The Cthulhu-like tentacles on the mouth, I think, is cool. It's got a good pose. It's standing on something that's filling the role of the old tactical rock, but again, it's a twist on the old tactical rock that adds a bit of depth and a bit of character to it. And it's just a cool model. Hormogaunts with the Rubber Swarm, again, these slashing talons is scary in a brilliant way. These guys charging down the battlefield would just strike fear into your heart. Again, these are Deinonychus size, bit bigger than that, not Velociraptor chicken size. So these things charging down the battlefield are terrifying in the best way. Again, they've got a good variation in their poses, but they're not so unique feeling that having hordes upon hordes upon hordes of these is going to feel repetitive. And it seems like they're a bit better balanced than the gaunts of old. So yeah, just brilliant sculpts. Tyrannofex. I feel like I could easily just pause the video here and I could just say, look at the Tyrannofex, and then just stop talking. Because everything about this is awesome. Look at the face. Look at how it's roaring. Look at this gun made of flesh. Look at this kind of beetle-like structure to it. Look at that tail extending back. Look at these ridges that are kind of like air vents and holes and like spore projectiles. Look at how it's moving, how kind of back supported it is. It's like that flesh gun is having recoil and those back legs are supporting that to keep it moving. This is just a phenomenal model. I love this thing. Like, I would happily build a Tyranid list entirely centered around this Tyrannofex. Again, need I say more? It's the Alien Xenomorph, but what if we made it more ridiculous and more amazing? Look at the swords. Look how many swords it has. This is 5 swords for 4 limbs and plus 2 legs, and this whip tail. Everything about this is dealing damage. Everything about this is here to end your day. The Harpy, again, I love this thing. I love how it flies. I love these spore mines. It's just a beautiful model. And look at just... Oh, it's kind of shark-like as well with that dorsal fin. And that tongue's weird and creepy. Its lower jaw's heavier than its top, than the rest of its skull. It's beefy and it's just flying around the battlefield. This is a phenomenal sculpt to me. Same deal. I don't feel like I need to say more. This thing's creepy as hell. Look at the tentacles. It's scary. It's stomping on a space marine. It's got a brain coming out of it. Just what a model. This is tentacles and space age stuff to the extreme. I like this thing, the troop transport. Again, it's so alien. Most troop transports look like a vehicle. This looks like a Dungeons and Dragons beholder that will lay an egg, and that egg is Tyranids. Everything about this is weird and creepy and alien, and it's what Tyranids are about. This is so cool. Okay, final one. I love these gargoyle things that fly across the battlefield in the same type of horde as the Tyranid gaunts. Something about that adds to the terror, makes them scarier, and I can just imagine these things flying over the battlefield, screeching in the most horrifying way. That's some of my favourite. Yeah, these are some of my favourite Tyranid units. They have so many units that they're all so brilliant. that why do I love Tyranids? I love what they represent in the lore. I love how different they are to everything else in the setting. And I love that they're dinosaur bugs from outer space that have so much diversity of how they can be built and sculpted and designed and painted. Yeah, that's why I love Tyranids. With that, if you'd like to please leave a comment about yes, do you love Tyranids? Do you think they're cool? What do you think is the most? What do you think in the setting is the most refreshing? What's the most refreshing part of the setting to you? That's the comment question of the day. Please like and subscribe. That would be brilliant as well. Share this around with any friends who you think might like to hear some rambling about why Tyranids are cool. That'd be amazing too. Links in the description. I've got a Patreon going, which would be great if you wanted to chip a little bit my way each month. That'd be brilliant as well. And with that, I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next time.